Bob Holt is with us from right outside the practice facility at the University of Arkansas. Football is 2 weeks and 2 days away, Arkansas versus Rice. Bob, how are you today? Thanks for being adjustable with us and coming on as usual on a Thursday.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah, we just got done with some interviews and actually in the Broyle Center parking lot.
Yep, we know that parking lot well. So I know Barry Odom spoke, and we've been waiting to hear his thoughts about his defense and maybe the scheme as well. Who are the players that you guys got to speak to today?
Well, we talked to the safeties. Barry's a coordinator, obviously, calls the plays. He coaches the safety specifically. So we got Joe Foucha and Simeon Blair.
Okay, so what was give us the overarching talk from Barry Odom? What did you take away from hearing Arkansas's defensive coordinator today?
Well, yeah, big theme, and the safeties talked about this too, was just the defensive line depth. Barry Odom has always been predominantly been a 4-3 guy, 4-down lineman coach. His background is as a coordinator and the head coach of Missouri. But last year they didn't play for down linemen very often because they honestly didn't have the numbers. And the LSU game where they got hit with COVID, I think Barry said they had like 5 linemen total. And so I think this year, it depends obviously what the game plan is going to be and who they're playing. But, last year playing 4-down linemen really wasn't a viable option very often, even if they wanted to do it. And this year you feel like they're going to have the flexibility to play 3 or 4, however they want to do that. So, that's going to be a plus. And we got that influx of 3 graduate transfer linemen, which is pretty rare. I think you get 3 good linemen at one position like that. 2 guys from Missouri, Markel Utse from Little Rock, and Trey Williams is from Missouri, and John Ridgway, who's apparently having a really good camp from what we can see and what people say. You wonder, this guy must have been like Merlin Olsen or something at Illinois State at that level, because he's playing pretty well, in this camp against SEC players. So that was a big part of it, just, the added defensive line depth and talent. And also I think there's just a level of, it's not like players are comfortable. There's a comfort level, I think, with this team. Barry Odom's second year as coordinator and having a lot of players back. And, of course, we know Barry had options, to leave. I think Texas wanted to hire him. I think LSU wanted to hire him. He decided to stay here. And he said he couldn't be working for a better guy than Stan Pittman. Really enjoys it here. I'm sure he wants to be head coach again, and I'm sure he'll get that opportunity at some point. But right now he's pretty happy at Arkansas. And I have trouble seeing him leave here for another coordinator job.
There's been so much focus on defensive line the last 2 days. Jamario Ashley spoke to the media yesterday, and Dorian Gerald speak as well. And today, that's the first thing that you're getting into. And, we have a thought that the secondary it has a chance to improve upon last year, and they had their outstanding moments last year. Linebacking core, hopefully a little deeper, but it really does seem that the expectation, if this defense can do all the things that a Barry Odom defense can do, that it really will start with the defensive line. And that's been, for me, defensively, the overarching theme of camp.
Yeah, and obviously Jonathan Marshall, their nose guard last year, very, very good player, had a great year, 6th-round pick of the Jets. I didn't see this, but I think Barry said he had a sack the other night for the Jets and whoever they were playing exhibition game. So he was a big loss. But really, they have everybody back significant besides Marshall. And then, like I said, they added those players. They go to the secondary, basically. Everybody's back, linebackers, everybody's back. So many, we call them super seniors, the guys that are 6-year seniors that decide to come back. And that says a lot for the coaching staff, because a lot of times if guys decide to come back for another year of college, they might go somewhere else, with the transfer portal being so wide open like it is. And so, there's just so much experience, and it's an experienced staff with Barry, and I think he's got guys in place with a position coaches the way he wants it now. And so, it's hard to see how this defense wouldn't be better.
Yeah, you definitely hope that for Arkansas to have that type of momentum and uptick in the season that I think we're all really expecting, it's going to have to start on the defensive side. And one thing that I'm interested to see, and I don't know if he talked about it today, Bob, but excuse me, how more aggressive are they going to be in their blitzing schemes, and especially on first down? Because that was a big question mark from last year of playing really conservative early in a series.
Well, we didn't really get into blitzing, and I'm sure if we had, he wouldn't have been too specific.
Yeah.
But his coaches obviously want to keep their game plans under wraps. But it was funny. I asked the safeties about the defensive line. Jeff Foucha, his face lit up, and he was like, "Oh man, been wanting to talk about those guys." And basically, it's no secret Arkansas didn't get a lot of pressure on the quarterback last year. Didn't get a lot of sacks, and so this year, something Joe was talking about in practice. Obviously, they don't hit the quarterback, but they sort of have touch sacks, or that guy's in the area and gets blown dead or whatever. You anticipate that would have been a sack, maybe. However it gets counted statistically, but they feel like he was talking about how much faster he thinks the defensive lineman will be able to get back to the quarterback, which obviously will make the secondary's job easier, not easy, but easier. If they can get back to that quarterback a couple seconds faster, he's either going to be taking sacks or having to throw the ball away, or maybe throwing it up for grabs. They got a lot of interceptions last year anyway, especially that Ole Miss game. But so yeah, I think you're going to see Arkansas getting more pressure. I mean, just having more linemen and experienced secondary and a little better depth at linebacker. We'll see how that plays out. I think there's 3 linebackers I feel real good about with Morgan, Henry, and Poole. Beyond that, I think there's some guys that they feel can help them, but they got to show they can do it. But I just think but Barry, it's like a chess player. You just got more pieces available to move around the board.
And you just brought up those linebackers, and you talked about how the safeties are happy about the defensive linemen coming in and relieving some of that pressure, making it easier. How much easier is it going to make it on Grant Poole and Bumper Poole and those guys? And, we're expecting Grant Morgan to capitalize on his All-American season last year and to be even better. But do you expect his statistics to go down with that much more experience in front of him?
Well, it kind of depends on what their scheme is for that week, what their game plan is. Basically, most defenses, you want the linemen to tie up the blockers and free up the linebackers. Keep those offensive linemen or running. I started to say fullback. I'm not sure anybody plays a fullback anymore. But basically, they want to keep people off those linebackers so they're free to run to the ball and make plays. That's what most defenses are designed to do. So, yeah, having more help up front, I think, will free up the linebackers even better. And, we'll see how that plays out. It's not easy to get 100-something tackles. And also, a lot of it gets down to efficiency. Everything's about analytics and how much plays, should Bumper play or should Grant play or should Hayden play before they start having some diminishing returns. Like maybe, after 50 snaps, just naturally, physically in the SEC, their level of play starts to go down. So we've got it's kind of like in basketball, you rest, your starters in the second quarter or the fourth quarter, or late in the third quarter or something. So they'll figure out what's the optimum number of plays for these linebackers and try to give them some rest too. So it's different things, the defensive line, but also maybe being able to play the linebackers an efficient amount of snaps.
Them putting Simeon Blair in front of the cameras and in front of the microphones, to me, seems like a really good thing. Grant Morgan talked about how his leadership role has grown in the offseason, and you saw some good things from him at safety last year, and that'll be an interesting tandem, he and Jalen Catalon back there at safety. What did Simeon Blair have to talk about? Because it seems like he's got an incredibly large role for this team after starting in 2 games last year.
Yeah, he's the guy that you really hadn't heard much about last year going into the season. He was a walk-on and hadn't played much. And then, he got thrust into playing quite a bit, and then he got a scholarship, which is great for him. It's always a great story when the walk-ons get scholarships. It's great, obviously, financially, but it's also sort of a validation that, hey, this guy belongs. He's an SEC caliber player. And I think Simeon will have a bigger role. I'm sure he's more confident going into this year. And kind of like Foucha was, they're going to play a lot of 3 safety with, Foucha, Catalan, and Simeon Blair. And, last year they did a lot of cross-training because of COVID. They did a lot of that with the offensive line, especially. They did a lot of that in the secondary because you just never knew who you might have week to week. Some guys might test positive or they might get caught up in contact tracing. And so I think, unfortunately, COVID is still with us, but, the team's pretty much fully vaccinated, and so you hope that won't be an issue. But if it is, I think they're prepared for that. Or, injuries, too. I think what the coaches learned was, hey, this cross-train's a pretty good idea. Let's do more of it. I mean, hopefully COVID's not an issue, but, if you have injuries or maybe you want to play more DBs against a certain team, it's like Joe was saying, those guys, they have specific positions out there in the secondary, but if need be, they can play different spots, too, and that comes with experience, obviously, as well.
The overarching issue for the defense last year was the inability to get off the field. It struggled a bit on third down, and a lot of that's because it struggled to, keep teams from getting good yardage on first and second down. Didn't generate too much of a pass rush, and really, when you look at it, I don't know the numbers right in front of you, there's so many more snaps for Arkansas on defense than there were on offense that it was just a total imbalance. And I don't believe that time of possession is the most important thing in the world, but man, defensively, that team just looked run down by the end of the season. And for me, I know it's August still, and I don't want to worry too much about what happens late in the season right now, but that's what stood out to me. That defense was run down because they just didn't have any depth. And I think by the end of the season, we'll have a real sense of whether or not the depth is there. If they look run down again. I hope they don't. I don't think they will.
Well, that's also, I think, a byproduct of a 10-game SEC schedule. And not just a 10-game SEC schedule, but, arguably, I don't even think it's really up for debate. Arkansas played the toughest schedule in the country last year when the SEC dumped Georgia and Florida on them and they expanded the conference schedule. And, playing in the West, you got to play Alabama and Auburn, LSU, and A&M. And the Mississippi schools are tough, too. There's really there's no easy game in the SEC, but, this year, look at their schedule, and you look at the three of the teams that changed coaches in the East, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, and Tennessee. Man, if I was in the West, I'd want to play some of those teams. I wasn't going to play any of them, And so I think they probably got the toughest schedule in the country again. Last year, I don't think it was up for debate. I mean, when they added Florida and Georgia, I was just flabbergasted. I thought, you got to be kidding me. But, hey, but I think that had something to do with it, too. Not just 10 SEC games, but 10 really tough SEC games. And so not just that, they got to play Texas this year, which is soon going to be an SEC team, and, it's comparable to an SEC team. And I don't think, Georgia Southern was 8-5 last year, I think. I don't think there's too many gimmies on that schedule at all, but I do think it will help not to have to play 10 SEC games.
Bob, appreciate you hopping on with us. And I know we had to jump around a little bit, and right after you're done talking with the players, you come on with us. So appreciate the immediacy of that and being adjustable, and we always appreciate you.
Thanks, Bob.
Oh, okay, you guys take care.
You got it. That's Bob Holt, Democrat-Gazette, and you read him tomorrow, WholeHogSports.com. Might still be getting, might be one of those people that subscribes and has the iPad. For those of you who do the iPad newspaper subscription. 877-377-6963, the number to finish up with us on halftime. Shane in Van Buren wants us to make bourbon bacon gravy. JW earlier told us chocolate gravy is an Arkansas thing that you got over at Louisiana. They've got to do something with bourbon for gravy, and Shane's got an idea. Bourbon and bacon work together in tandem nicely. Find a way to make a gravy out of it somehow. Halftime to wrap it up. Cherry on the top next.
The start of the season is just around the corner, and if you're into sports betting, Bet Online is where you should go to win some money today. Whether it's live bets during games or future bets on who you think will win the championship, Bet Online has all the latest odds, news, and information for all your online sports betting needs. Visit the website today or use your mobile device to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. So before the next big game or before the season starts, head on over to Bet Online and start playing today. That's Bet Online, your online sportsbook experts.